Alright, so now I'm going to work on adding a window to the scene to make the room look a little bit better. So as you can see, I've exported a window mesh and the texture, and I've got them in the same folder as I've got our sofa. So I'm going to go ahead, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the stuff we have right now just so I can get a clean workspace. To do that, in the top right hand corner, anything that you don't want to be looking at right now, just click the little eyeball and everything will be hidden. And you can do this at the collection level as well, just like that. But I'm going to do it individually because I'm about to import the window into this collection as well. So first, go back to File, Append. Alright. And then remember it's Object. And as you can see, this object has a ton of these Studio Mesh objects. Remember, we don't need the one that says 0, but we probably need the rest. So I'm going to take them all. And that is what our window looks like before our texture is applied. I'm going to go back over here, delete the rig, delete bone shape. I don't even know what these things do, but we don't need them. So once we do that, when you actually look at this window, something's going on, right? You want to be able to see through it, but you can't because there's these little blocks. And the easiest thing to do is just delete them. So there's actually one on both sides. So you see I've deleted this one. And now I've deleted that one. And I just did that by clicking it, and as it's selected, hitting delete on the keyboard. Now, this is a window from the actual Sims game, but if you were to have a custom content window, it might not be exactly like this. I find that the ones in the game itself are usually sufficient, so that's what I tend to use if I want a window, because I mean, this is a nice window. It's nicer than the ones in my house, and that's for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and now work on applying the texture. So I'm going to split this just like we did before, and then go to Shader Editor. Now, since this has so many different meshes, we are going to have to apply the material to each mesh individually. So once I click the first one, I'm going to go down to our materials pane, use nodes, and I'm going to do the same exact thing we did for the sofa. And I'm going to come over here, click add, then texture, image texture, and I'm going to find the image for the window that I've saved. And then connect it. Now, what's interesting about this is while we do have to apply the material to every single piece of the mesh, we don't have to do this part again. So if we come over here and go to our next mesh, and you see it says diffuse 2. Well, we just created a diffuse. As you can see, there's going to be a lot of different things because there's one for each of these technically, but you can see that this one is not solid white, meaning it's the same one. And when I select it, it shows over here that this is the same thing we just created, the same material. So I'm going to go to all of these, and I'm going to apply the same one. And as you can see, as I'm applying it, the texture itself is applying to different parts of the window, and that's just because the mesh is actually multiple parts. So I'm going to do that to all of them. Alright, and the final thing I'm going to do to this window is I'm going to select all the meshes. You can either do that by highlighting it and clicking and dragging it in the window, or you can click Studio Mesh 1, Shift, and then Studio Mesh 8 to select them all. And then on your keyboard, if you click Control plus J, now you can see all of those individual meshes have turned into one, which is much more manageable. And then you can rename it, and now it's much more organized up here, and it's easier to keep track of things. So now I'm going to unhide everything else. And I'm going to move the window kind of into the place that I want it. So I'm going to move it up. And then kind of into the wall, just like that. And as you can see, we still cannot see through this thing. Well, that's because the wall is in the way. So usually what I do is I'm just going to move the wall just like that. And then we're just going to copy it to the other side. Control C, Control V, G, X, moving it to the other side. And I'm going to do the same thing for the top and the bottom. Don't even, if you want to clean up the excess, you can, but it doesn't matter because it's not going to be in the final picture. So I'm going to copy that wall again. Move it over. Then move it down so it looks like one continuous wall. Then I'm going to do the same thing and move it up so it looks like our window is in the wall. And you can see that and play around with that if you want to. And then just like our window, I'm going to go ahead and combine all these different planes so that we're only dealing with one. One for the wall, one for the floor. So I'm going to make sure I'm selecting the right ones. If you hold Control, you can pick and choose what you're selecting over here. I find it a little better to select things from this than it is to just point and click. You may find the opposite, whatever works for you. Control J. Now we have a single piece wall. So in the next video, I'm going to show how to make it look like something is outside this window.